There's a city where death is illegal, another where 400,000 people are trapped with no road to escape, and one floating 5,100 meters above sea level where 55,000 people shouldn't be able to breathe, yet they call it home. What you're about to discover will completely change how you think about human survival, because these aren't just cities built in challenging locations. These are monuments to human defiance, places that break every rule of urban planning, engineering, and sometimes even physics. Every architect will tell you cities need three things to survive: accessible water, stable ground, and bearable climate. The 10 cities I'm about to show you have none of these, yet they don't just survive, they thrive. But here's what nobody talks about. Each of these impossible cities has developed a survival system so ingenious, so unexpected, that modern engineers are now studying them to design the cities of tomorrow. The underground churches of Ethiopia that stay naturally air-conditioned in 50-degree heat, the floating neighborhoods of Nigeria that rise with the floods, the Arctic city that turned eternal darkness into its greatest asset. Let's start with the highest human settlement on Earth, where every breath is a battle, and leaving means certain death for half its population. At 5,100 meters above sea level, Rinconada sits higher than most planes fly during turbulence. But altitude isn't what makes this city impossible. It's what happens to the human body when it stays here. Welcome to the highest permanent human settlement on Earth, a gold mining town in Peru, where the air contains 50% less oxygen than at sea level. Your first day here, you can't walk 10 steps without gasping. Your first week, you experience constant headaches, nausea, and confusion as your brain literally starves for oxygen. But after your first month, something extraordinary happens. The residents of this city have evolved, not over millennia, but within their own lifetimes. Their blood contains 30% more red blood cells than yours or mine. Their hearts are physically larger, their lung capacity expanded. Medical researchers discovered that pregnant women here produce babies with genetic adaptations that wouldn't develop at sea level for thousands of years. They're literally witnessing human evolution in fast forward. But here's what makes Rinconada truly impossible: the cachorio system. There's no regular salary in this city. Instead, miners work for free for 30 days straight. On the 31st day, they're allowed to take home whatever ore they can carry on their backs. Some walk away with nothing. Others strike gold worth $50,000 in a single day. It's a lottery system that shouldn't sustain a population of 55,000, yet it does. Everyone assumes people live here despite the conditions. Wrong. They live here because of them. The extreme altitude creates a natural barrier that keeps government oversight, corporate mining companies, and law enforcement at bay. This city is perhaps the last truly free market on Earth. No taxes, no regulations, no oversight. It's capitalism in its purest, most brutal form. The city has no sewage system, no garbage collection, no running water. The average temperature is below freezing year-round. Yet property prices have increased 400% in the last decade. Why? Because nowhere else on Earth can you potentially become a millionaire in a single day with nothing but a pickaxe and the ability to survive where others can't breathe. Visiting Rinconada requires serious preparation. First, spend at least 3 days acclimatizing in Cusco at 3,400 meters. The only way up is a dangerous truck ride that locals charge $30 for. Bring coca leaves for altitude sickness and expect no tourist infrastructure. This is raw adventure travel at its most extreme. If you think living without oxygen is extreme, wait until you see what happens when an entire city of 400,000 people has no road connecting it to the outside world. Deep in the Amazon rainforest sits a city of 400,000 people that you cannot drive to, not because the roads are bad, not because of border controls, but because no roads exist. Iquitos is the largest city on Earth with absolutely no road access, a metropolitan island surrounded not by water, but by the world's densest jungle. Welcome to the most isolated major city on the planet, where everything, every car, every piece of furniture, every bag of cement arrives by boat or plane. The nearest road ends 1,000 kilometers away through impenetrable rainforest. To put that in perspective, you could drive from London to Rome in the distance it would take to reach the nearest highway from Iquitos. But here's what makes this city truly impossible. It thrives on its isolation. The isolation that should kill it has made it the unchallenged capital of the Upper Amazon, controlling trade for an area the size of France. The economics are mind-bending. A car that costs $20,000 in Lima costs $35,000 in Iquitos, if you can find one. Every vehicle was brought in by cargo plane or floated on barges during high water season. There are Ferrari dealerships in a city you literally cannot drive to or from. The streets are full of motorcycles and motorcarros, three-wheeled taxis, because they're easier to fly in. During the rubber boom of the 1890s, this place became one of the richest cities in the world. Rubber barons built mansions with Italian marble, imported piece by piece up the Amazon. When the rubber boom ended, the city should have died. Instead, it adapted. Today, Iquitos has turned the Amazon from a barrier into a highway. The city's port handles cargo ships that travel 3,700 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean. Yes, ocean-going vessels reach this jungle city. During high water season, the Amazon here is 20 kilometers wide. It's not a river anymore, it's a moving sea. The isolation has created its own economy. This city is the gateway to ayahuasca tourism, jungle lodges, and the supply hub for 200,000 square kilometers of rainforest. Every remote village, every riverside community depends on Iquitos. The city doesn't need roads because it has something better: a transportation network that reaches everywhere water flows. The psychological effect is fascinating. Inhabitants have developed a unique culture found nowhere else. They speak Spanish mixed with words from 40 different Amazonian languages. After a few months here, residents report that the outside world feels unnecessarily complicated. Why deal with traffic when boats never jam? The real secret of Iquitos is biological. The city exists in the most biodiverse place on Earth. Within the city limits, there are more species of birds than in all of Europe. More types of fish swim past the port than exist in the Atlantic Ocean. The jungle that isolates Iquitos also feeds it, heals it, and defines it. To reach Iquitos, fly from Lima for $100 or take the adventurous route 3 to 5 days by boat from Pucallpa for $30 in a hammock. Once there, take a boat to Belen Floating Market, entire neighborhoods that rise and fall with the river. Visit during low water season, June-November, to see beaches appear in the middle of the Amazon. But what happens when it's not isolation that makes a city impossible, but the opposite? Our next city is drowning in visitors who come to watch it die. Venice is drowning, not metaphorically, literally sinking 2 millimeters every year while the sea rises around it. Engineers gave it 50 years to live in 1960. Yet today, Venice is richer, more populated, and more visited than ever. Here's what your tour guide won't tell you. Venice isn't built on land that's sinking. It's built on 120 islands that were never meant to support a city. The entire metropolis rests on millions of wooden posts driven into marshy ground over 1,000 years ago. These posts should have rotted away centuries ago, but they haven't. In fact, they're getting stronger. When engineers recently examined Venice's foundations, they discovered something that defied everything we know about wood preservation. The wooden posts, submerged in salt water for a millennium, had transformed. The lack of oxygen in the marsh mud caused a process called mineralization. The wood is literally turning to stone. Venice isn't just surviving, despite its impossible foundation. It's becoming more stable with each passing century. But the real secret of Venice's survival isn't engineering, it's economic. Venice discovered something no other city has successfully replicated: how to monetize its own death. The city charges premium prices because it's dying. Hotels market last chance to see Venice. Restaurants price meals based on how many more years they'll exist. The city makes more money from its impending doom than most cities make from growth. The numbers are staggering. Venice proper has only 50,000 residents, down from 175,000 in 1950. But those 50,000 residents host 30 million tourists annually. That's 600 tourists for every resident. Every year, the city generates $2.5 billion annually from tourism alone. That's $50,000 per resident, just from visitors coming to watch the city sink. Everyone knows about the Meuse flood barriers, the $7 billion system of gates meant to save Venice. What they don't know is that many Venetians opposed it, not because it wouldn't work, but because it would work too well. Venice's mythology, its entire economic model, depends on its fragility. Save Venice, and you might kill what makes it Venice. The adaptation strategies are ingenious. Buildings now have sacrificial ground floors, beautiful but disposable spaces designed to flood. Residents live on upper floors, treating the ground level like a twice-daily tidal pool. Electronic systems are waterproofed or placed above the high water mark. Venice hasn't just adapted to flooding, it's designed its entire society around it. Visit during Aqua Alta season from October to January to see Venice's adaptation in action. Download the High Tide app for flood predictions. Stay in Cannaregio or Castello districts. Less touristy, more authentic, and you'll pay half the price. Book restaurants on upper floors for the best experience during high water. A 72-hour Vecchiaretto pass at €40 is your key to understanding how Venice truly functions as a water city. Venice embraces its water, but what about a city where a single drop of rain hasn't fallen in over 400 years, where even the air you breathe has to be manufactured? In Chile's Atacama Desert, there's a place where NASA tests Mars rovers because it's the most Mars-like environment on Earth. Yet 1.5 million people call this wasteland home. How do you build cities where rain is just a legend? The Atacama is the driest place on Earth. Some weather stations have never recorded rainfall. The soil contains perchlorates that would kill most life forms. The sun's radiation is so intense that exposed skin burns in minutes, yet the mining towns here don't just survive. They've created a water system so advanced that Israel sends engineers to study it. Here's what makes these cities impossible. They harvest water from fog. Using massive nets called atrapanibles, they capture microscopic water droplets from the morning fog that rolls in from the Pacific. One net can produce 240 liters of water per day from absolutely nothing but air. The ancient Atacameños knew this secret for millennia, but modern science has amplified it. The city of Iquitos takes it further. They've built the world's largest fog harvesting facility, producing 100,000 liters daily. But that's not the incredible part. The water they harvest is purer than most bottled water. No pollution, no minerals, no contamination. It's literally distilled by nature before they collect it. But survival here requires more than water. The psychological adaptations are extraordinary. Residents of Calama report that after living without rain for years, the sound of rainfall in movies makes them anxious. Children grow up never seeing a natural pond or stream, yet depression rates are lower than in Santiago. Why? Researchers discovered that the constant sunshine creates natural vitamin D levels 3 times higher than normal, acting as a natural antidepressant. The mining companies have turned scarcity into innovation. They've developed closed-loop water systems where the same water is recycled 50 times. They're pioneering solar desalination that could transform coastal deserts worldwide. The Atacama isn't just surviving without water, it's teaching the world how to live without it. The economics are brutal but brilliant. Water costs more than gasoline here. A swimming pool is a greater status symbol than a Ferrari, but the mines produce 30% of the world's copper, generating $20 billion annually. Every drop of water invested returns thousands of dollars in mineral wealth. San Pedro de Atacama is your base for exploring. Hostels from $20 per night. Join a stargazing tour for $35 in the world's clearest skies. The Valle de la Luna at sunset is unmissable. Rent a bike to explore the desert safely. Altitude is 2,400 meters, so hydrate constantly. Pro tip, book the 3-day Uyuni Salt Flats crossing to Bolivia, the most surreal journey on Earth. Speaking of mineral wealth, our next city sits on top of the richest diamond mine on Earth. The catch? It's 200 miles inside the Arctic Circle, where the ground is frozen solid year-round. until it suddenly, catastrophically, isn't. In Svalbard, death is illegal, not metaphorically, literally against the law. If you're dying, you'll be flown to mainland Norway. The reason? Bodies don't decompose here. Corpses from 1918 are still perfectly preserved, Spanish flu virus intact. Welcome to the northernmost permanently inhabited place on Earth, where 2,500 people live in eternal darkness for 4 months and eternal daylight for another 4. But Svalbard's impossibility isn't the darkness. It's that the very ground it's built on is disappearing. This place is built on permafrost, ground that's been frozen for millennia. Every building, every road, every pipe depends on this frozen foundation. But here's what nobody expected. The permafrost is melting from below, not from climate change above, but from geological heat underneath. Buildings are collapsing into sinkholes that didn't exist 5 years ago. The seed vault, humanity's agricultural backup drive, had to be emergency renovated when meltwater breached its entrance. Yet Svalbard isn't evacuating, it's thriving. The population has grown 20% in the last decade. Property prices have tripled. Tech companies are building data centers here. Why? Svalbard has no visa requirements. Anyone from any country can move here, no questions asked. It's the only place on Earth with true open borders, creating a bizarre international community where North Korean defectors live next to American hedge fund managers. The adaptations are ingenious. Buildings are now built on adjustable foundations that can be raised as the ground shifts. Pipes run above ground in heated tunnels. The entire city is being rebuilt on stilts, turning Longyearbyen into an Arctic Venice. We're not trying to stop the melt anymore, says city engineer Lars Oyvind. We're surfing it. Every challenge the Arctic throws at us becomes an opportunity to innovate. The psychological adaptations are even stranger. Residents report that after experiencing both eternal night and eternal day, regular day-night cycles feel wrong. Many never readjust after leaving. Some develop what locals call Arctic syndrome, a psychological state where extreme conditions feel more natural than normal ones. People think Svalbard survives on government subsidies. Wrong. It's economically self-sufficient through a combination of tourism, research, and data storage. The cold climate and remote location make it perfect for server farms. Microsoft and other tech giants store backup data here, paying millions annually. The Arctic isn't just habitable, it's profitable. Fly via Oslo, the only connection. No visa needed for anyone. Visit March for northern lights with some daylight, or June through August for midnight sun. Hotels are pricey at $200 or more, but guest houses exist for $100. A must-do. Snowmobile to the abandoned Soviet city of Pyramiden for $150. Pack for -30 Celsius even in summer. Fun fact, you legally must carry rifles outside town due to polar bears. Rentals available. But what if the challenge isn't too much cold or heat, but too much movement? Our next city doesn't just deal with earthquakes. It experiences them daily, sometimes hourly. Tokyo experiences 1,500 earthquakes every year. That's 4 per day. Most cities would crumble. Tokyo doesn't just survive. It's the safest major city on Earth during an earthquake. The secret? Tokyo doesn't resist earthquakes. It dances with them. Here's what makes Tokyo impossible. It's built on the intersection of 4 tectonic plates, sitting atop the Ring of Fire, where 90% of the world's earthquakes occur. The city shouldn't exist. Early Western engineers who visited in the 1870s declared it uninhabitable. Yet today, 38 million people live in Greater Tokyo, the largest metropolitan area in human history. The secret is something called base isolation. Imagine your building sitting on giant rubber balls. When an earthquake hits, the ground moves, but the building stays still, floating above the chaos. The Tokyo Skytree, at 634 meters tall, can sway up to 3 meters during a major quake without any structural damage. It's not rigid strength, it's engineered flexibility. But the real innovation isn't in the buildings, it's in the people. Tokyo has developed the world's most sophisticated earthquake culture. Children practice earthquake drills monthly from age 3. Every phone has an earthquake warning system that gives you 10 to 60 seconds notice, enough time to shut off gas lines, open doors, and get to safety. The city has turned survival into muscle memory. After the 2011 earthquake, Tokyo didn't just rebuild, it revolutionized. They developed buildings that actually get stronger during earthquakes, using something called seismic energy dissipation. Buildings convert earthquake energy into heat, which is then dispersed harmlessly. The earthquake literally makes the building more stable. The economics are counterintuitive. Tokyo real estate is among the world's most expensive, not despite the earthquakes, but because of them. The constant threat has created the world's most advanced construction industry. Japanese earthquake engineering is now Japan's most valuable export after cars and electronics. They're selling survival. People think Tokyo's earthquake readiness is about predicting quakes. It's about accepting them as inevitable. Every building is designed to be quickly replaceable. Every family has a go bag. Every neighborhood has a designated gathering spot. Tokyo doesn't prevent disasters, it's pre-recovered from them. The psychological impact is profound. Tokyo's report that living with constant minor quakes creates a unique mental state, a calm acceptance of impermanence that Westerners find either enlightening or terrifying. The city has turned existential threat into Zen philosophy. Stay in a high-rise hotel to feel the building sway. Shinjuku Washington Hotel offers great value. Visit the free Earthquake Simulation Center in Ikebukuro to experience a magnitude 7. Download the Yurekuru Call app for earthquake alerts. For authentic Tokyo, explore during the 5 to 7 a.m. hour when the city resets. JR pass holders, the Tokaido Shinkansen has never had an earthquake fatality. Ultimate engineering confidence. Tokyo embraces movement. But what about a city that hasn't moved in 900 years because it's carved from a single solid piece of volcanic rock? While every other city in history was built up, Lalibela was built down. 11 churches, some 15 meters tall, carved directly into the ground from single pieces of volcanic rock. But here's what archaeologists can't explain. They were carved from the top down in the 12th century with perfect precision, including drainage systems that still work today. This shouldn't be possible. Carving a church from solid rock would be challenging with modern tools. Doing it 900 years ago, from top to bottom, with hand tools, creating perfect Greek crosses visible only from above, centuries before humans could fly. The mathematics alone are impossible. But Lalibela's true impossibility isn't its construction, it's its preservation. These churches are below ground level in a region with a 3-month rainy season. They should have flooded and eroded centuries ago. Instead, they're getting stronger. The volcanic rock has mineralized over time, creating a surface harder than when it was first carved. The drainage system is so sophisticated that modern engineers can't improve it. A network of tunnels, channels, and hidden reservoirs moves water away from the churches through paths carved into solid rock. During the rainy season, the water is directed into agricultural areas, turning what should be destructive floods into irrigation. The churches maintain perfect temperatures year-round without any climate control. The rock absorbs heat during the day and releases it at night, creating a natural HVAC system 900 years before air conditioning was invented. In 45 degrees Celsius heat, the churches stay at 23 degrees. UNESCO calls these the eighth wonder of the world, but locals have a different perspective. They don't see these as ancient monuments. They see them as living churches. Every day, priests conduct services in churches older than most European cathedrals. This isn't archaeology. It's active worship in negative space. The economic model is unique. Lalibela receives 100,000 pilgrims annually, but unlike tourist destinations, it doesn't charge admission. The churches survive on donations, yet they're better maintained than sites with million-dollar budgets. The secret: every local family adopts a section of the churches, maintaining it for generations. It's crowd-sourced preservation, medieval style. These churches weren't built, says local historian Tekel Hale. They were revealed. We removed the rock that wasn't supposed to be there. Visit during Timkat in January for the Ethiopian Orthodox Epiphany. Unforgettable but crowded. Flights via Addis Ababa to Lalibela Airport. Stay at the Mountain View Hotel for $60 per night, built into the cliff face. Hire a local guide for $20 per day, mandatory and worth it for the stories. Remove shoes for every church. Early morning visits at 6 a.m. let you witness actual services. The $50 entrance fee supports preservation. Lalibela found beauty in subtraction. But what about cities that have no choice but to float? Where the very concept of solid ground is a luxury most residents have never experienced. In Lagos Lagoon, 300,000 people live in a city that doesn't technically exist. No postal addresses, no land ownership, no official recognition. Makoko is built entirely on stilts over water, yet it has schools, churches, restaurants, and even a floating football field. The government calls it a slum. Architects call it the future. Here's what makes Makoko impossible. It shouldn't function. No sewage system, no electricity grid, no fresh water supply, buildings connected by canoes instead of roads. Yet Makoko has a lower crime rate than Lagos. better school attendance, and a thriving economy generating millions annually. It's not surviving despite being on water, it's succeeding because of it. The secret is radical decentralization. Every family is essentially their own utility company. They harvest rainwater, generate solar power, and process waste through floating gardens that also provide food. It's not poverty, it's post-grid living that Silicon Valley is desperately trying to replicate. Makoko has developed its own floating architecture that adapts to water levels. Buildings rise and fall with the tides on bamboo frames that flex but don't break. During floods that devastate Lagos, Makoko just rises higher. The buildings are designed to be disassembled and moved in hours. Ultimate architectural flexibility. The social innovation is even more impressive. Without police, Makoko developed a council system where disputes are resolved within hours, not years. Without banks, they created a floating economy based on trust networks that move millions daily. Without urban planning, they've organized themselves into neighborhoods more efficiently than most planned cities. International architects are now studying Makoko as a model for climate adaptation. The Makoko Floating School, designed by architect Kunle Adeyemi, won multiple international awards before ironically collapsing, teaching another lesson about impermanence and adaptation. Version 2.0 is even better, incorporating lessons from failure. The government tried to demolish Makoko in 2012, calling it an eyesore. The residents rebuilt overnight. Not from stubbornness, but from necessity. For generations born on water, land-based housing feels wrong. Children who've never walked on solid ground until age 5 develop different spatial awareness, different balance, different relationships with stability. The economics are fascinating. Property in Makoko, if you can call floating structures property, appreciates faster than Lagos real estate. A good spot near the main canal costs more than land in some Lagos neighborhoods. Why? Location still matters, even when that location is liquid. Makoko welcomes visitors, but only with local guides from the community for $30 to $50. Never take photos without permission. Visit the Makoko Dream Center to understand community initiatives, best accessed from 3rd Mainland Bridge. Support the local economy, buy crafts directly from artisans. Remember, this is a thriving community, not a tourist attraction. Consider donating to the Iwea Waterfront Community Project. Makoko floats on water. But our next city floats on something even more unstable. Sand. Deep in the Sahara, where GPS fails and compasses spin, there's a city that moves, literally moves, with the dunes. Chinguetti was once home to 20,000 scholars and traders. Today, 3,000 people remain, fighting a daily battle against the Sahara Desert that's literally eating their city. Every morning, residents wake up to find sand has claimed another room, another street, another memory, yet they refuse to leave. This medieval city in Mauritania faces an impossible enemy. The desert advances 6 meters every year. Entire neighborhoods are now underground, buried beneath dunes. You can walk on sand and be standing above someone's living room. The city isn't just threatened by the desert, it's being digested by it. But here's what makes Chinguetti truly impossible. The sand isn't destroying the city, it's preserving it. Buildings buried in sand for decades emerge perfectly intact when the dunes shift. The sand acts like a time capsule, maintaining constant temperature and humidity. Manuscripts from the 13th century, buried and recovered, are in better condition than those kept in modern libraries. The residents have developed a symbiotic relationship with the sand. They don't fight it, they surf it. When sand claims a building, they build on top. The city is now a vertical archaeological site, with 800 years of history stacked like geological layers. Some families live in houses built on top of their grandparents' homes, which sit on top of their great-grandparents' homes. Chinguetti is teaching us about dynamic architecture. Buildings here are designed to be partially buried. Doorways are cut higher up walls in anticipation of sand rise. Windows become ground-level entrances. It's architecture that expects and embraces change rather than resisting it. UNESCO wanted to save Chinguetti by building barriers against the sand. The locals refused. They understood what outsiders didn't. The sand isn't the enemy, it's the city's immune system. Remove the sand, and you expose ancient structures to temperature fluctuations, humidity changes, and erosion that would destroy them in years. The economics defy logic. Property values increase as buildings get buried. Why? Because a partially buried building has proven it can survive. It's been tested by the desert and passed. These sand-tested structures are now Mauritania's most valuable real estate. Reach Chinguetti via four-wheel drive car from Atar, 100 kilometers of rough road. Bring a Mauritanian guide, mandatory for safety. Visit November through February to avoid extreme heat. Stay in traditional auberges for $30 per night for authentic experience. The ancient libraries require special permission but are worth the effort. Bring cash as there are no ATMs, and lots of water. The sunset from the old minaret is spectacular, if you can climb the sand to reach it. Chinguetti is slowly being consumed by nature. But our final city, it exists in a place where nature said no, absolutely, categorically no human life, yet 4 million people call it home. Kuwait City holds a record no city wants. Highest recorded temperature in Asia, 54 degrees Celsius in 2016. That's hot enough to cause third-degree burns from touching metal. Hot enough to cook an egg on asphalt in 3 minutes. The human body begins shutting down at 42 degrees internal temperature. Kuwait City shouldn't have survived past the invention of the thermometer. Yet it's one of the richest cities on Earth. Here's the impossible truth. Kuwait City has no natural fresh water source. None. The few wells that exist produce water 8 times saltier than seawater. Rainfall averages 110 millimeters per year, all falling in a few winter days. The city produces 100% of its fresh water through desalination, making it the only major city on Earth that manufactures every drop its residents drink. But the real impossibility is the scale. Kuwait's desalination plants produce 2 billion liters daily. That's not just drinking water, that's swimming pools, fountains, and some of the world's greenest parks in the middle of absolute desert. Kuwait has more water per capita than London, a city famous for rain. The city has developed the world's most advanced cooling infrastructure, not air conditioning. That's primitive by Kuwait standards. They've created microclimates. Entire neighborhoods exist in temperature bubbles, using misting systems, shade engineering, and convection currents to create comfortable zones in hellish heat. The traditional souks stay 15 degrees cooler than the surrounding area, using principles discovered centuries ago, now amplified with modern engineering. Kuwait City has turned its greatest weakness into its greatest strength. The extreme heat that should make it uninhabitable has made it the world's laboratory for climate adaptation. Every solution developed here, from cooling fabrics to heat-resistant construction materials, becomes valuable intellectual property sold globally. The social adaptations are extraordinary. Kuwaitis have reversed their circadian rhythms. The city truly comes alive at night. Shopping malls open at 10 p.m. Restaurants peak at 2 a.m. Children play in parks at midnight. It's not insomnia, it's thermal intelligence. People think Kuwait City survives on oil wealth alone. But here's the secret. Kuwait is using oil money to become the first post-oil economy. They're investing billions in solar power, using the same sun that makes life impossible to make energy unlimited. By 2030, Kuwait plans to generate all its desalination power from solar. The desert isn't just habitable, it's sustainable. The city has created abundance from nothing. No water? They make it. Too hot? They engineer coolness. No arable land? They farm vertically in climate-controlled towers. Kuwait City isn't just surviving the impossible. It's proving that impossible is a design challenge, not a barrier. We don't live despite the desert, says city planner Farah Al-Rashid. We live because of it. The desert taught us that comfort is something you create, not something you find. Visit October through March, when temperatures drop to a mere 30 degrees. The Kuwait Towers offer incredible views for $15. Experience the Grand Mosque's free tours to understand Islamic architecture's cooling principles. Al-Mubarakia stays cooler and offers authentic experiences. For true Kuwait life, visit the Avenues Mall at midnight. It's packed. Pro tip: Thursday, Friday is the weekend. Uber works perfectly and is cheap. We've just traveled to 10 cities that shouldn't exist. Cities above the clouds, where humans evolved in real time. Floating communities that rise with floods. Cities carved from solid rock, swallowed by sand, built on ice that's melting from below. Each of these impossible places shares one thing. They stopped fighting their environment and started dancing with it. La Rinconada turned thin air into freedom. Venice monetized its own doom. Tokyo made earthquakes into economics. Makoko made poverty into innovation. Here's what changes everything. These aren't stories of human triumph over nature. They're stories of human harmony with extremes. The future of our species isn't in perfect places, it's in impossible ones. As our planet becomes more extreme, these cities aren't cautionary tales. They're instruction manuals. The next time someone tells you something is impossible, whether it's a place to live, a way to work, or a problem to solve, remember Chinguetti, slowly eaten by sand yet preserving treasures for centuries. Remember Svalbard, where death is illegal and borders don't exist. Remember the 300,000 people of Makoko who built a functioning city on water with no permission, no assistance, and no apologies. These cities are writing the playbook for human survival in the next century. As sea levels rise, we'll look to Venice and Makoko. As temperatures soar, we'll study Kuwait City and the Atacama. The impossible cities of today are the normal cities of tomorrow. But here's the question that should keep you wondering. If humans can thrive in places where we can't breathe, where water doesn't exist, where the ground literally disappears beneath our feet, then what exactly are we capable of? The impossible isn't where humanity ends. It's where humanity evolves. Welcome to tomorrow. It's more impossible and more possible than you ever imagined.